All of sex is weird. When you guys were LDS, you were sealed to the temple, and you were sealed to your sister. And then your daughter is going to be your sister. And then your daughter is going to get married and have sex with her husband, who is her brother. It's all weird. I'm fine with that.
Worldview Detective.
My question for Kwaku is, knowing what you know about Joseph Smith's history with polygamy, and knowing that there have been other people who have practiced similar things and claimed that God was directing them to do so, how do you know that that was God working through Joseph Smith? And can that test also be applied to, say, Warren Jeffs, David Koresh, etc.?
The way I look at it is I think you kind of have to take a grand scheme look. So, you can always make the argument of, oh, well, we don't know how many of them he slept with, and the only kids he has are from Emma.
Some apologists try to argue that there were some types of plural marriages that Joseph entered into that weren't sexual.
Even though Mormons like to pretend that we don't know why polygamy was instituted, we do know because God has laid out in the scriptures and why he was down for polygamy, and there is no scriptural justification for marriages that don't involve sex.
So in the Book of Mormon, if you go to Jacob 2, it actually denounces polygamy, but then leaves one caveat that says, if the Lord will raise up seed unto himself, which of course means having children. Those are the only justifications given for polygamy is having kids, which means sex. So Joseph Smith had nearly 40 wives. 3 were 17 years old, 1 was 16, and 2 were only 14 years old.
Joseph almost definitely did have sex with a 14-year-old girl.
But I want to take a grand scheme look at it and say, if something's inspired by God, and when I say that, I mean the 1978 First Presidency Statement, right? That certain popes, even the reformers, Muhammad, the Confucius monks are inspired by God. And we have the only priesthood authority, but there's still inspiration that can be found elsewhere. An inspired movement is going to have the marks of an inspired movement. Warren Jeffs in jail.
Joseph and Hiram were ordered to report to Carthage, Illinois to answer to charges from apostates and enemies of the church that as Nauvoo mayor and city councilman, they had illegally directed the destruction of a newspaper press. The next day, they surrendered themselves to Constable David Bettesworth and submitted themselves for trial. Joseph and Hiram were served an arrest warrant on the charge of treason. They were moved here to the jail at Carthage.
He has 2 small colonies. It has not made a dent. It has not actually brought forward a mass push of Judeo-Christian ethics and morals in society. Joseph Smith's movement did that.
Is false. I'm a Latter-day Saint, aka a Mormon, and you'll find that it's pretty common belief that we believe that there are multiple gods. Now, evangelical Christians, Protestants, Catholics, Eastern Orthodoxy, Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witnesses, the majority of Christianity does not accept what we believe. They totally think we're wrong in this regard.
It has not made a dent. It has not actually brought forward a mass push of Judeo-Christian ethics and morals in society.
I promise you that this is true. I am so confident in the truth of this. You could get 1 million pastors, 200,000 priests, and 500,000 ministers, all to rail against the restored gospel of Jesus Christ, all to throw everything they have, and they would not change the truth. During the Great Apostasy, one of the biggest things Satan did was confuse people about the nature of God and trick thousands of people into worshiping and following a nothingness.
Ironic.
What from his initial claim to what we have now is because of Joseph Smith. The way I look at it as a con man and a liar can't achieve that. Joan of Arc was only able to achieve what she achieved because she was inspired. If she was just a schizophrenic, she's not freeing France.
Many of the most memorable examples of people suffering from severe delusions come from serial killers. And yeah, while Son of Sam did claim that he was taking orders from his neighbor's dog, that kind of stuff is in the tiny, tiny, tiny minority. Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys and Sid Barrett of Pink Floyd have both suffered psychotic symptoms. And then, of course, there's John Nash, the Nobel Prize-winning American mathematician and subject of the movie A Beautiful Mind. Through proper treatment, some people with schizophrenia have not only learned to live with their illness, but also made fantastic creative contributions to the world.
I think you can objectively take a look and say, you know the mark of a con man and you know the mark of an inspired person. And I put Joseph on that category because of everything else that happened. Do I understand the polygamy? No, but I will say if God's the creator and inventor of marriage, he gets to do what he wants with it. And if at some point he says, marry more women, you're going to do it. And what if some of them are a little bit younger? Isn't that weird? Do you believe that God predestined the sex trafficking that happens in Houston, where I'm from?
Again, there is
yes or
nothing.
No?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You believe that God predestined and made so little girls and boys are sex trafficked and murdered and left into holes.
Kwaku,
God does not do that.
Those are terrible
He doesn't do it.
things,
He doesn't do it. And they're not of God. They're not of God. They're not of God, if you ask me.
Then your God
so
made that happen and just didn't have a purpose and wasn't smart enough to make things work out right.
Mankind made that happen. I don't believe that that God predestines wickedness and evilness to happen. I think that is horrid. I think that's an evil doctrine. And it no way shows that God is loving because it's not accurate. Do I understand the polygamy? No, but I will say if God's the creator and inventor of marriage, he gets to do what he wants with it. And if at some point he says, marry more women, you're going to do it. And what if some of them are a little bit younger? Isn't that weird? I think that is horrid. I think that's an evil doctrine. And it no way shows that God is loving because it's not accurate. Right. Mankind made that happen. In European countries, the age of consent's like 16.
Don't listen to apologists telling you that it was normal back then, because it was absolutely not normal for girls as young as 14 to get married. There was a tiny percentage of women that would get married at 14 to other 14-year-olds or like people generally within their age range, like a 14-year-old girl in love with a 16-year-old boyfriend or something, not to a 36-year-old man that already had a bunch more wives.
All of sex is weird. It's all weird. When you guys were LDS, you were sealed in the temple and you were sealed to your sister. And then your daughter is going to be your sister. And then your daughter is going to get married and have sex with her husband, who is her brother. It's all weird. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with recognizing that it's not something that normal, but neither are Native American angels glowing, flying through time and space. Neither are golden plates. Neither is any of it. I'm fine with it. I don't think Joseph fits the mark of a con man. It all would have fallen and died. It could not have become what it became if he was.
You could get 1 million pastors, 200,000 priests, and 500,000 ministers to throw everything they have, and they would not change the truth. Thousands of people worshiping and following a nothingness.